right, I'd like to call the Wednesday, August 27th, 2025 meeting of the Gardner City Council's Finance Committee to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councillor Derlowitz.
Present.
Councillor Heglin. Present. Councillor Mack.
Present.
Announcement of open meeting recordings. The open meeting recording notice is up on the wall over there. Is anyone here other than staff recording? There is none. Reading of prior meeting minutes. There are none. Section 2 department updates. We have 4 departments here for updates. First up, we have the city clerk.
Hello, everyone.
So introduce these more in general while you're taking your seat. We haven't done these in a bit for the finance committee. We're going to hear from 4 of the departments here: the clerk, purchasing, human resources, and the assessor's office, just to get an update, get an idea what's going on, things that are happening, maybe get some information about things we should know about. So the floor is yours, Madam Clerk.
All right. Hello. So we're going to talk about elections. So we have the upcoming September 16th preliminary election for the mayoral race, and then we have the general election November 4th. I finally got the poll pads utilizing. After 3 years in the closet, we finally had our poll pad training last week, and it was really good. We had about, I sent out about 95 letters. I made it mandatory for the poll workers to come, and about 75 of them came. And probably the rest were just people that no longer work with us, or no longer here, or just didn't respond back. So it was a good turnout, and I had a lot of good feedback on that. These poll pads are just little tablet devices where we can now look up the voter list without having to do the old paper way, flipping through things, crossing out names. It's all in an electronic device, and you can search by typing in a couple letters or the first or last names, and it just pre-populates. It'll also pop up where if you don't know, if they don't belong in that precinct, it'll say like, oh, you don't belong in this precinct, you actually go to this other precinct instead. It'll print out the directions for them, and you can just hand it to them, and it'll just make it easier for, it'll alleviate the paperwork, the phone calls all the time. Where do I register? Where do I vote? Like, this device is really, everyone liked it. I'm looking forward to using it for this upcoming election. So it's a good time for them to train and learn and get a good feel of it. Then we have, and so I am conducting a couple more like poll pad classes just for anyone that couldn't make it. So anyone is welcome to come check it out if you want to see what it looks like as well. And I do want to acknowledge my poll workers, how great job they do, and the dedication they've done for me, my staff, the office, the elections. Some of them have been with me for quite some time. Some of them worked under when Alan was city clerk, and they're still with me, and I really appreciate their help. And always looking for new poll workers as well for training. I want to mention early voting. Early voting, we aren't doing in-person early voting. It's just vote by mail. So if you want to apply to vote by mail, you should come into the clerk's office, apply online, or call our office and we'll mail it out to you. So if anyone's inquiring about early voting, that's what we're doing.
Can I just ask, if they've already had early voting before by mail, do they have to re-register again for this election?
Annually.
It's annually.
It's annually,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's important.
And then, so the last day to apply for vote by mail ballot application is September 9th. So after that, we can't process anymore, mail out anymore. Then I got an upcoming election training September 10th. This will go into more detail. So annually, I had to train the poll workers how to run the polls in the elections. It's pretty repetitive for those seasonal poll workers, and it's also beneficial for the new poll workers. So that'll be conducted September 10th. So you guys are also welcome to attend, or if you want to find more information about that. This time I'm doing a little more different. I'm going to focus a little more on the wardens and the clerks, because the clerks are the ones that tally the votes at the end of the night. I'm going to do more of an exercise, hands-on training with them, and just focus on them a little more, because that seems to be like the weak spot, or they struggle with it a little, not too bad. But I have my staff train on as well. So if they panic, get nervous, my office is there to help them, to rescue them at the end of the night. And then I have, at the moment right now, we're doing ballot testing. So it's going on today and tomorrow, just open to the public. Again, the public is welcome to observe that. So we're marked up some ballots, running them to the machines to make sure they're all processing if they go different ways, different scenarios and stuff like that, so that's going good at the moment. Off to the clerk's office, my staff has been training on agendas, so they're posting, attending the meeting, doing the minutes, and finalizing the items after the council votes. So I have Jay and I are pretty much covering finance and city council. I have Jenny that covers EcoDev and appointments, and then Susie covers safety and welfare. And then at some point when they're comfortable, I would like for them to rotate the different meetings, because some meetings run later than other, or some of them in the morning, so time-wise, just be fair for everyone. I want them to rotate on the meetings and coverage, so they're doing the agendas, they're, again, the meeting minutes and the final, like, once it goes to the vote for the council, then they'll take care of their item and do it to the final stage of what needs to be done, like sending it to the mayor for signature, or sending out the ordinance, or sending out the license, so they finish it from beginning to the end. We're at the last stages of dog licenses. $10 late fees have been implemented. After that, there's the $50 citation fee, and then the last step is they don't pay the citation fee, it's gone to the court. It's at that point right now. Since we've used a new online system, OpenGov, it's been really good. We've had more people apply online, less calls. People can upload their own stuff, their rabies certificates on their own accounts, and fewer citations this year than past years, so that system's working out pretty well. We have the second mailing of the census that went out, or working its way out, so it's anyone that didn't apply to this response to the first census in January, the second mailing has gone out, so that should be coming through pretty soon for people that didn't respond. And then today we received a new copy machine, finally. It's being in, I think it's, I don't know if it's working. Someone was working on it before I came up here. Business certificates are kind of on hold at the moment because we're waiting for the building commissioner to approve them, because that's the first step before it comes to our office for approval. And then on vitals, we have a new death certificate system that the state launched. It's still an online platform, but they changed it to VIPS to Maverick, which is a new software our staff is, I'm learning myself and the staff is learning, so it's a little bit challenging. They are gonna have a conference in September, I believe, and I'm hoping that we can all go to attend, because we still have some questions. We're a decent-sized community that has a hospital and nursing homes, so we deal a lot with the death certificate, so we kind of need a little, it'd be beneficial for us to attend this conference to learn about this program and have some of our questions answered. Marriage certificates, a little busy. This time of the year, people want to get married this season or in the fall. Birth certificates, always busy. Real ID rolling out, so everyone's asking for the birth certificate. As for city council stuff, I don't really, not much to touch base on that. I'm pretty sure you guys know what's going on with city council. I just want to mention that we do have a new flow chart with the city council process, where things that get submitted to a folder from the mayor's office that's shared with our staff, and then from there on, there's another spreadsheet that we're using. And then you guys have your old subfolders. So anything that gets submitted does get put into your shared city council folder, which all you guys can see now, and it makes it easier. I've got good feedback from other councils saying that you can see everyone's items now before the agenda is posted, so that's a good system that's been working good so far. And I think that's all I got for now. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions, comments?
None from me, thank you.
For me, thank you, I was very
Okay.
happy to see the new copier.
Yeah, me
Some
too.
movements in life that make you happy, long overdue.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna take the next update out of order. We'll get the Director of Human Resources, Anna Morse.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Mine's pretty short. Mostly right now we're very busy with just the day-to-day office stuff. We have working on a lot of FMLA leaves, injured on duty, workman's comp, have a lot of just files going on with that right now. One of the biggest projects we just completed was we launched electronic onboarding for staff. So now how it starts is the department head will send us an email saying we're hiring this person. We request their position, start date, name, email, phone number. we reach out via email to them and let them know what the process looks like. They will receive our welcome email. We ask for a couple days for them to come in and do a couple of, show their ID for their I-9, do their background checks. And then everything else is done through the ease portal, which is also where you register for your voluntary benefits. They do their tax forms, they can upload documents, and every policy that the city has is now uploaded. They have to go in, actually read through, scroll through, acknowledge that they read the policy, and then at the end they have to sign off on the acknowledgement saying that they received them. So that's been great so far. We've put maybe 5 to 6 people through the system, and every single person has given great feedback. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I'd like to see a couple more improvements there. I'm working on getting annual signatures on things through that system as well. So your policy updates, any training, I'm hoping to have through that system, since everybody will already have access to it and be familiar with it. And the second piece of that is the retirement paperwork is not through there right now, which I'm hoping to get at some point. Other than that, we have a few upcoming hires. A new building commissioner is starting next week. We have a new inspector who started part-time this week, and then he'll transition to full-time the following week. And we have a new veteran director starting as well. And then just a quick hiring update. So since the beginning of the year, we've done 79 hires. That includes 23 from the rec program. That does include some seasonal staff, so lifeguards. It does not include the volunteers through the volunteer incentive program. That's another 17 on top of the 79. So very busy with hires, paperwork, coming in for appointments. So we've been very busy, but a lot of just the day-to-day versus big projects right now.
The electronic onboarding was a huge lift, and I think Director Morse is kind of not tooting her own horn where she should be on this one, but that one not only saves us a lot of time with waiting for someone to, come pick up a packet, go home, and then remember to bring everything back, and leaving one slip at home and then having to bring that, and us not being able to do everything there too, but just makes it more efficient for the employee that's there and easier for us to track on our end, and again, just cuts down the paper and brings City Hall into the comfort of someone's home. So that's been actually really, really helpful, and that was a couple months worth of work to get everything uploaded the right way onto that system, and her and Megan Graves really did a great job on that one.
The portal system we're utilizing, is that something we already had that we weren't fully using its
Correct.
capacity? Okay.
And there is through that company, they're transitioning to another very well-known program probably within the next year. And that one has even greater capabilities than what we have now, but we kind of have to wait for them to tell us when they're ready for that.
Switches?
Yeah.
Okay. While we have you here, the policies, I know you've been working on more policies, how is that process going?
No, all the updates as of right now are complete. I'm trying to think of, we're working on one with the police, but all the major updates right now have been done and submitted. Yep.
And so on the online platform, handbooks, policies, they sign off that they have received them?
Correct.
Employees?
Yes.
And if need, existing employees can go on?
Yes,
and-
everything's in, existing, I don't believe if you just log on, you have access to them. It's just if you sign off, you can go back and review what you've signed off on. So until the current employees get that acknowledgement stating you have annual policies to review, I don't believe they'll have access to go in and view them.
Okay. That leads me to my next question. The 2-year state ethics and whatnot.
Yep.
People are doing that still every 2 years. Have all boards, commissions, appointees completed that?
So this is a whole other project that needs to be tackled. It's very poor reporting, so there's no good way to track it, to be honest. When someone starts, they get a form that states they have to do it, they have X amount of time to do it. They get automatic reminders that I do not feel have been very accurate. I'll get emails from, I feel like the school,
The schools are different. The schools you go online
Yeah.
and Brad can correct me, Councilor Hagan, if it's changed. but you had so many days at the beginning of the school year to do it. You actually had to print the certificate after you took the test, and everyone had to submit it to their office. And then they went through, and if you hadn't done it, then you got a reminder that it needed to be done.
Right.
But I just have a concern, you know, that I think, you know, employees are doing it, but whether it's, you know, we've done it, city council, zoning board, GRA, I mean, you know, housing development, everybody should have to make sure they're up to date on that. And, you know, even if it's just available as a city, it's just through you know, an email or it's right on the website, but I think that's just a very important reminder.
Ironically, Director Morris and I just talked about this like 20 minutes ago, because when Director Morris first started, it really, we found out it was being done on an honor system with the boards and commissions, which really it shouldn't be done that way. There's a reason why we have it for the employees, and we really just didn't extend that to the boards and commissioners who are employees of the city by virtue of their employment. So we are working on a system for that now.
Yeah, it's important for people to know those are all municipal agencies, whether it's an appointed, elected, or hired position. My other question, I know you were working on something with performance reviews.
Yes.
And where does that stand?
We're still working on, we created a form for the employee and the supervisor to complete. We just need to kind of nail down how we want it to work, what time frame we're gonna give people, you know, do you do the self-assessment, how often? So it's more, when are they due? Are we gonna do anniversary dates? Is it gonna be once a year? And then how long do you have, you know, you do your self-assessment and then do you sit down with your supervisor within X amount of time, and then they have X amount of time to review them. And then it's gonna be the tracking, which will probably be on my department to make sure everybody submits them. We have copies of the reviews. You know, so it's more the formalities now that we have the forms completed itself.
Further questions?
No, that was it.
Councilor Abel?
Nothing for me, actually, just thank you, I think the electronic onboarding is awesome for you all, so I'm glad about that, but I think all of my questions were answered.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time, thank
Of
you.
course, thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have the city assessor, Sean Richard.
Chris Kumar.
Oh, assessor, sorry, Chris Kumar. I think we had the auditor, my fault.
You confused me.
I confused myself, I'm sorry. City assessor is up. Chris Kumar, thank you for being here.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm gonna kind of start around January, because that's really when our fiscal year 26 starts in the assessor's office, so we've closed out fiscal year 25. We did have an issue with Munis in personal property tax billing, where 164 accounts that are under the $5,000 exempt value did get bills. So I had to go in and manually abate those. And those, they only totaled like $5,500 because they are under $5,000 in assets, so they were all small bills. Let's see. Forms of list were mailed out to our personal property accounts, 565 of them. We've received about 43% back. 555 income and expense forms were mailed out, and those go to our commercial, industrial, mixed use, and apartments. We've received about 38% of those back. 36 ABC applications were mailed out, 100% have been returned. Those are for property held for charitable purposes. 17 chapter land applications were mailed, and when I say mailed, printed, put in envelopes, and mailed. So it's not just a quick mailing. The state's Gateway Portal Directory was updated with my new appointment expiration date. That's a yearly function. Let's see, 9 fiscal year personal property omitted and revised bills were generated, totaling about $26,500. 9 real estate supplemental bills were generated for a total of about $34,000. All map changes and lot splits created by new plans from calendar year 2024 were updated by me in Vision and then on the map by our GIS coordinator. The Board of Assessors received a total of 11 abatement applications. The deadline to file was February 1st. 8 of those were real estate and 3 were personal property. By March 25th, we had acted on all 11. The deadline to act is April 1st. 3 real estate were approved, 5 were denied, and 3 personal property were approved. We do have 1 ATB case, someone familiar. And we actually have that case coming up next month. So out of the ones that were denied, only 1 filed at the ATB. So that's pretty good. I think our values are right in the ballpark. Veterans exemption forms were completed through the state's gateway and submitted. Basically all the forms that I have to submit through Gateway, except for the LA4, which we're waiting for personal property adjustments to be able to submit. All the other forms have been submitted and approved, so our qualified sales have been approved. The LA4 are the values, so we're waiting for the personal property to be able to do that. Generally, it's a pretty quick turnaround once I have those numbers, and those should be available probably within the next month or less. Then we can go ahead and continue on to get the values certified. Let's see, new growth. New growth is one of the things I'm waiting on. Usually you submit the LA4 and the new growth together. I do believe we're gonna hit the estimated 250,000, so that's good news.
We budgeted 100,000 in the budget, just to throw that out there, so that's an additional 150,000 in revenue that would be in a supplemental budget that the administration is planning to submit sometime before December.
Let's see, since January 1st, there've been 518 excise tax abatements processed for just over $63,000. New owner information is updated in Vision on a weekly basis, and since January 1st, there's been approximately 309 new deeds or ownership transfers. Building permit information is added to corresponding property cards in Vision, also on a weekly basis. And since the 1st of January, I've basically added information from 622 building permits. So that's not necessarily 622 cards. There might be duplicate, you know, more than 1 permit per house, but 622 permits. We've done a total of 59 commercial and industrial cyclical inspections and 321 residential properties since January. As I mentioned, there's 1 pending ATB case, and again, that's next month. Last week, I attended a 7-hour USPAP course, which is ethics, and it's required for my recertification for my MAA designation through the state, and that's due by the 27th of December. So I'm actually going to be sending all that documentation in because I have all my continuing education hours. So another 2 years. As I mentioned, I'm waiting to receive the adjustments on personal property. Once we receive that, kind of everything else will be going with the values and the new growth. Last year, I was able to submit those forms to the state on the 18th of September. So we're hoping to keep that same time frame. And our values were certified the next day. So we usually have everything in pretty good order when we submit it. As for goals, basically because it's such a cyclical type of position, adhere to Mass General Law, Chapter 59, a certification of assessed values in a timely manner, meet or exceed the estimate for new growth, get the tax rate recap sheet to the state, and have approval, you know, plenty of time to have the classification hearing, and to be able to process the actual bills in plenty of time. We hate for that to be rushed. To obtain my continuing education credits on a yearly basis, and just be available to taxpayer questions and concerns. We keep records up to date as possible. Like I said, I'm usually on that stuff weekly. So ownership information, people will call, you know, a month after they've bought a house. I just wanted to let you know, yep, I already have it, we're good. And just treat everyone, coworkers, taxpayers, realtors, lawyers, vendors, fairly and with respect. That would be it.
If I could just add to where, you know, Director Kumar was talking about the veterans exemption letters that she sent out. because I didn't realize how high the numbers were for Gardner until we sat down and talked about it. We issue 136 properties abatements for the various veterans property tax exemptions.
Yep.
For which the Commonwealth does reimburse the city 75%.
Yes, I believe that is true.
In the next cherry sheet that we get. So we're always a year behind on that from the cherry sheet that we get from state aid. But it's just about $120,000 a year that we deduct. Or we reduce those, when you add up how much we reduce those 136 properties property taxes, it adds up to a value of about $120,000 annually. And when the average single-family home tax bill in Gardner is around $4,000 right now, you can see how that adds up really quick. So just because, again, that number was a lot higher than I had expected when we originally sat down, I thought that was worth pointing out and mentioning.
Yeah, and I might just add to that. I know there's people ask about increasing those values, but like the mayor said, the average tax bill is a little bit over $4,000. One of the veteran exemptions, the highest one is $1,000. So that's about 25%. Anything we raise or increase is on the city. That does not get reimbursed at that point by the state. So.
Understood. Questions, comments?
Nothing from me, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Update, thank you so much. All right, now the purchasing director, Rick Corman.
So I'm gonna keep my phone by my side just to be cognizant of everybody's time. I know that it's limited. I've been working on this since Monday when I got the email, and I oftentimes talk or write too much. Just initially when we were invited, I kind of looked back at the last fiscal year just to kind of summarize some things. In fiscal year 25, we did 2,380 purchase orders for just shy of $39 million in total cost. We did a paperless process which saved the city about 2,500 sheets of paper, saved the world, and saved us some money on paper. On the purchase order side, just so you know, we have a workflow that's set up for everybody. Basically, somebody submits a requisition, it goes to the department head. If the department head didn't submit it, then it goes to Amy in my office, then comes to me to convert it. We also did 85 contracts in FY25 of $12.5 million. Those go through DocuSign. We did some larger document ones that we can't go through because they're 700 pages. We renewed more than 50 contracts at the end of FY25 this past June. We completed 21 procurement processes. Those from start to finish are, developing which Mass General law it needs to go into, what's required by that general law, what the value of it is. We have to post it in a number of places, including the local newspaper, State's Combine, State's Central Register, outside the purchasing office, and a number of other ways. There's three main laws that I have to follow. It's Mass General Law 30B, which is the Uniform Procurement Act for supplies and services. 149 is basically your vertical construction with any kind of building. 3039 is horizontal. And then I also look at the city charter, which obviously can be more restrictive. When the city charter was updated, the Mass General law says contracts are required for anything more than 10,000. We made it so that if it was anything construction related, it was 5,000 or more. That's for our liability and security. We've done it that way. Some of the larger projects we bid out over the last year were Rear Main Street at $3.6 million, the abatement and demo of 205, 213 Main, our on-call engineering, our school transportation services, which unfortunately was up quite a bit, our Greenwood Pool demolition and improvement project, which just noted, I think we've talked about this in the past, we did receive a bid protest on that, and the Attorney General's office ruled that we did it in the proper process and ruled in our favor. We also disposed of 94 Pleasant Street with a sale, and we leased 62 Waterford Street to Growing Places. We tried to sell 73 Stewart Street, and we tried to lease out 62 Waterford Street Unit C, the two-story. Twice we did that with no luck. So far in FY26, we've done 589 purchase orders, minus the 30 we've done in the last 24 hours, for about $16 million. We've also completed contracts, 9 of them for about $70,000. We have 3 in the queue. We currently have 6 public procurement processes in active process right now. We have the salt shed installation project. We did a site walk on Monday on that. That's due next Wednesday. We have the Waterford Street door and ramp project for the two-story wing. That's due 9/4, so next Thursday at 1 p.m. We did a site walk yesterday. We also have that's actually through the unexpended bond project funds, so we have that. We also have the City Hall upgrades. That one's a little different. There's sub-bids required because of the amount. So we did a site walk yesterday as well. Sub-bids are due 9/5 at 12 p.m. And then we're gonna do general bids, will be due 9:15 at 1 p.m. Just so you know, we can talk about that in the future, but there will be impact to the front of City Hall when that's done, causing a little change of process as you come in.
If I could jump in, I was gonna mention that at the end of the director's report, but since you just mentioned that now, the current information that we have from the engineers for this project, because the building maintenance of City Hall does also fall under the Finance Committee's purview, is that the front door of City Hall will be closed for a period of about 8 weeks. That's because the pillars need to be realigned, the stairs need to be reset, basically taken out and then put back in, and everything that has to be done in between, as well as the 4 concrete pads directly in front of those steps are getting fully ripped up and replaced with new concrete pads that are level with each other and not frost heaved apart from each other. That causes that inconsistency in grade there. We are already working, I've got a meeting set up with Doug Monroe from the DPW, who's the foreman of the Lines and Signs Department, to set up the detour signs, if you will, on how to get into City Hall without having to go through the front door. There'll be additional signage pointing to the ballot box and drop-off box in front of City Hall for people who just are looking at dropping off payments. And then the other thing that we'll be looking at too is once the front door is done, then next, I believe it's an alternate in the bid.
No,
it's in the
it's just,
basement,
it'll be
yeah.
a different phase. of it,
Is the handicap ramp that's on the side of the building there too, because there are some spots there that have settled and some spots that have frost heaved up. So we are working right now. The Disability Commission has also been informed of this because we have to find an accessible way into City Hall, because right now that is the only accessible door to the building. So be it, coming up with a plan to have people come in through the Knowlton Street parking lot and get into the door a separate way on what's not ripped up at the time, because that's probably gonna be a 2-ish week ballpark process to get that ramp replaced over there as well. So those are all things that will be communicated as they come up, but we're already coming up with the behind the scenes plans for to figure out how we'll be able to implement those once the bids come in. And then the salt shed one is for the roof of the salt shed. We already have the base, the foundation and the base have been completed in-house. Those are already done, so now we just need the roof to be put on, and that has to be what's bid out.
And do you expect that to be completed by the beginning of winter?
I do.
mean, it's been a very long process.
Yeah.
On something that was an emergency
Yep, I do.
ask. Okay, thank you.
The only other thing I'd add on the City Hall upgrades, it also includes the windows in the auditorium. There is a lead time on the material, so the goal is to bid this out, do the 2 phases that involve construction of the building, and then do the windows when the winter ends. So we'll purchase them, get everything in place, and we won't have to worry about having windows replaced during the middle of the coldest part of our season. So we also have FY26 snow removal and ice control. That's due on the 15th of September. And then we have 2 dispositions of property. We have the 53 School Street, that's due on September 24th. There will be a site walk on September 8th at 10 a.m. for that. Once opened, basically what happens is we open the RFP, we get all the documents minus the cost. The mayor sets up a subcommittee, they review it independently, they offer recommendation, we open up the cost. We find out what the cost is based on the evaluations. A recommendation is made by the mayor, and then we go forward with it. Second property that's out for disposition is 130 Elm Street, the former Helen May Sauter School. That one is due October 1st at 12 o'clock, and there's a site walk scheduled at 10:15 for that one. Next up is I'm also working on the landfill leach pump replacement project through the health department. That one right now is scheduled to be available on 9/3 and due 9/25. I'm still in the process of formulating those documents.
This is the solid waste landfill.
Thank you. Just a point of information for that. The bulk of the procurement process is done by me. We were able to work on Amy's position, the former financial admin. As you know, for about 3 years, I requested an assistant director. We worked, because that wasn't able to be done. We worked to get her promoted to an executive coordinator position, which allowed me to provide more duties for her. And that was approved in May of this year, but unfortunately, given the timing, we're slowly adding things to her role. Right now, it's the emergency stuff. So can we get a purchase order done today? Josh isn't here, so yep, Amy can do it. She also can handle credit card authorization and increases, which is great because that's typically what we get a lot of calls on is, hey, I'm doing something that the credit card is being declined. We find out they're doing something at $2,500 and it's maybe $1,000 limit. So she can increase that. I'm trying to skip through some stuff too because I know there's some time here. I also want to add, much like the city assessor, I've done my Massachusetts Certified Public Purchasing Official redesignation. They, for some reason, call it designation rather than certification. It was due in December. Mine's already done and approved, so I'm now certified or designated until December of 2028. I'm up for reappointment this year, so I felt it was important I do that. Some future things that I'm looking at. We're working with the state Supplier Diversity Office to offer a Partners in Progress event. It'll be open to about 20 vendors and over 100 participants throughout the state that will come here to meet with members of the SDO office and through the state and through the Commonwealth. As of right now, that's scheduled for October 1st at the PACC. Obviously, that's going to be open to the public, so if anybody wants to attend from the council. We're also looking at a PO change order process. Right now, what happens, as I said, requisitions come in, we approve them, there's a number. If somebody needs to change that PO, it doesn't follow the same process. So hypothetically, somebody could, an admin at a school could say, I want to do this requisition, and go through the whole process of going through the principal, the finance director at the school, superintendent, then Amy, then me. A change order would be basically that admin saying, hey, can you increase this PO by $10,000? So we put something in place that said if it's more than $10,000, it has to be included, the department head has to be included on the email. What we'll do for more transparency and for audit purposes is we'll make that a part of the workflow within Munis so that any given time, it'll have to go through that process. And there'll be some limitations, like if it's a $5,000 increase, maybe there's approvals that are less than if it's a $50,000. So we're reviewing that right now. I know this is a purchasing update, but I do also want to update on civil enforcement because my department is purchasing and civil enforcement, and that's my role. I serve as the parking clerk as well as the municipal hearings officer. You guys have heard parking meter update a number of times, so I don't need to do that, as well as the parking app. The only thing I'll update you on is the app has taken in about 4,500 transactions this year. For a total of about $5,600 in received income. We average about 17 per day, but there have been some days like I did look, the Food Truck Festival day had over 100 transactions. The one thing I will openly say is if you say you go out to eat and you put in an hour and you put it in your app and then you stay for an hour and a half and you put it in for another half while you're there, I don't know if that's one transaction or two. So that's something I got a clarification on. But it's definitely a night and day difference from what we used to do where we would pay more money than we were getting in from the credit cards. So it's definitely an increase in revenue. So far, because of the new meter situation, we did see a bump in meter violations. So in my world, parking violations are issued by somebody else. I receive the appeal and the abatement request if they're given. So in FY25, we had 810 meter violations for about $16,000 in violations. I'm sorry, 810 violations. 495 of those were meter violations, and most of those came from January on. We had about 200 parking ban and snow removal violations, so that's the bulk of the rest of them. In FY26, we've only had 27 violations for $440. So from July until now, 27 violations, June to January back. Almost 500. We've done 28 official appeal applications, and we've done a number in the first couple of days. We just kind of waived everything because of the process. Again, as I've mentioned to people, we have new habits that we're teaching people. They haven't had to pay into a meter since before the pandemic. I also want to note too, just because DPW was mentioned, we had this process set up to put in these new meters, and then we lost staff. And DPW stepped up and did a tremendous amount of work to get those meters up. Then the former executive aide to the mayor and myself did a lot with the marketing piece to get the meters stickered. so we could use the apps. So that whole process was done, very good teamwork and very well organized. Last thing, just to point out, civil enforcements, we also handle any non-criminal enforcement violation that's issued. Those could come from health, building, fire, police. Over the last little bit of time, we've really focused on animal control, as noted by the city clerk. Once the $50 citation is given, it comes to us. In total, we received about $21,000 in civil violations, but the animal control has been about $7,000. There were approximately 452 dogs that were unlicensed as of the $50 violation issuance. Outside of the parking bans, this is when we see the most angry people that come into our office. We've made it through that process for the most part. There's about 125 unlicensed dogs that have resulted in owners receiving court notices, as mentioned by the city clerk. Now we just wait and see what the court has. And then two things I want to add. I just want to reiterate the importance of Amy. I think my update wouldn't be complete if I didn't tell you how important she was to not only my department, but departments throughout the city. Over the past, when the fiscal year flipped, we had a number of requisitions that came in through Amazon. Amy looked at Amazon days, held on to those requisitions, and saved the school department alone about $2,500 on their transactions. The amount of work that she completes, not only that is required by her job, but also not required by her job, can't be quantified. I also want to add, just because it's a fun part of my job, but you guys have known, and Councilor Hegland mentioned it, over the last year, we have instituted a film Gardner page. We were able to work with scouts, directors, producers to get a movie here. They filmed 12 out of 17 days here. And I know people ask me, how did that happen and what does it mean for Gardner? It happened because we're a great city to film in. We have a lot to offer. Also, I talk to them nonstop to try to get them here. I also will say that I issue a things to do in Gardner sheet to everybody when they come to film. It tells them where they can eat, where they can shop, and where they can play. So everything from your bowling alleys to your Mackey Building Center, so they know where they can get their tape, their wood, their food, whatever they need. So I've done my best to try to make that an economic development piece and try to help the city. The last thing I'll just say, with all that noted, I believe these are the necessary updates at the time. It's a bit of what I do in the Purchasing and Civil Enforcement Department, but not everything. I'm honored to be its director and to work with such a wonderful person on my team, as I noted. I also feel privileged to work with nearly all of the city's employees, whether in City Hall or outside of it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on purchasing or civil enforcement, and I try to get it done by 4:15 per your
You did a
request.
fantastic job, thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any questions from the councilors?
I have no questions, I just wanna comment that, I'm really happy that you have the ability to have somebody else in your office process things. I mean, that's been a long time coming, so that you could take your earned time off and not feel that you have to be on call all the time. I think, I think, purchasing is one of those offices that not everybody interacts with on a daily basis, but you do such valuable work for the city, every city department, and I don't want that to get lost, that, what you do is, and Amy do is very much appreciated.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't add that I should probably add, because it relates to that, is anytime somebody spends anything more than $1,000, it comes through our office. Mm-hmm. Outside of the school department. The school department, it could be a nickel. Per school department policy, they have to come through purchasing. So either a requisition or a contract needs to come through our department, so.
I also feel like it's worth mentioning, just because this is part of our outreach that we're doing, since it was mentioned both by Director Cormier and by the city clerk, that under the general laws of the Commonwealth, that's what says that if you don't license your dog within a certain amount of time, that a summons has to be issued by the court. That's actually considered a criminal citation. We did have an instance this year where someone was speeding and had a warrant issued because they didn't license their dog and got arrested and held overnight because they didn't license their dog while they got pulled over for a speeding ticket. So we are doing everything we can to make sure that people are getting the information that they need, saying that, license your dog by this date, with the signs we put out around the city, the mailings we put out with the census, and everything in between. This instance was someone who had moved out of Gardner, and the individual who the person was living with didn't forward the notices to this individual at their new address. If you don't notify the city that you've either moved, or the dog is deceased, or the dog is no longer with you, the city can only legally go off of the list from the previous years or the rabies certificates that we get sent directly to the city clerk's office from the veterinarians who issue the rabies vaccines to these dogs. And then anyone who doesn't line up on the list from last year, or is a new rabies certificate that we get that isn't registered, that's who has to get sent to the citation process and then eventually get sent to the court if you do, under the provisions of the general laws of the Commonwealth. This isn't something that the cities come up with. This is the process that we're required to follow by law. And then it just happened that the perfect storm happened this year, that someone ended up overnight at the Orange Police Department for it. So we just want to make sure that that doesn't happen again in the future and people know what they have to do moving forward.
Thank you. Further questions, comments?
No further questions, it was really good, very thorough, a lot of proactive pieces.
Yes, thank you very much for the update, appreciate it, and thank you everyone else for their updates as well. Next time we'll have the auditor, hopefully, and the treasurer is the plan, but not this time.
I'll keep it under 2 hours.
Better. Let's see, where are we? All right, next we're on to section 3, first time on the agenda. The first item is 11539, an ordinance to amend the City of Gardner, Chapter 8, thereof entitled Personnel, to replace Attachment 1, Schedule E, thereof entitled Non-Union Compensation Schedule. We've had discussions at the council level regards to this, salary studies, working groups that have worked on this, questions back and forth. The mayor and the auditors provided more information again, which came to the finance committee. We do have an updated version of the ordinance that the mayor has provided to us. That's in part of our packet. Reorganizes it a little differently, maybe a little easier to read. We have the other version as well. So I'll let the mayor start with what he's kind of presented to us for this meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and councilors. The newer version mimics the same format that we have in the collective bargaining agreements for the city for everyone but the teachers. The teachers grid does look a little different, but this is what all the other unions besides the teachers have for their steps, just to make it a little more cleaner and easier to read to see where the steps fall. Step 1 would be the starting step. After 1 year of service, you'd move to step 2. After your second year of service, you'd move to step 3, and then you'd move to step 4 when you hit your 5th anniversary date with the city. So that's the way that this is lined up. It also included in there what went into that salary and what didn't. I know there was a question that was asked at the informal meeting as well. Basically what had happened in the past is that we kind of talked about these positions had been looked at as a position basis over the past several years, particularly with the police chief, police deputy chief, and fire chief. The kind of take on it was whatever their unions got that reported to them, they also received the same style compensation for it. So if you'll notice at the police chief and the deputy chief, their educational incentive and clothing allowance is rolled into their base pay because that was what was done for the patrol union and the superior officers union back in those negotiations. And again, the positions were treated the same as the unions who reported to them. But as you look down to a couple of the other positions under the $500 clothing allowance isn't included and rolled into the base pay because that hadn't been done for those positions in the past. So that's kind of spelled out a little clearer here that they still receive that benefit even if it's not rolled into the compensation study that's there, or the compensation plan that is there with them. The other thing that I wanted to note that's a change from the old ordinance on here as well that was brought out a little different way than what was originally presented is with the educational incentives for the police chief, deputy chief, and fire chief. The job descriptions that we have with the city mandate that we have a minimum bachelor's degree education. So we took out the 2 steps that were below for no college education and for associate's degree education because then they would be out of compliance with what the regulations we have for our city for those positions are. And those are based on the Quinn bill projections that are there, a certain percentage over base pay based off of your educational attainment that you have in order to get a better understanding of those positions. What is new when we were going through this is, as it, it was pointed out in the informal meeting that there were some positions that were omitted from the original proposal. Those have been added into this proposal that you see here. This also does include the new youth center director that the council recently sent to second printing and created for the new youth center that's grant funded for the city for the pilot program that we have this year. Also that's new in this is what we figured while we were adding those positions in here We also added a step scale increase for the seasonal, temporary, and intermittent staff that had a lower step between, lower percentage between the steps as well, but it also made it so that we could start paying our lifeguards a little higher, which I know is something that the council has asked for several times, basically with language stating that if the, say a lifeguard worked a full season, or at least 7/10 of a season, they're eligible to go to a step 2 the next year if they come back to employment with the city. And that's in the language of the ordinance itself. And then the last section in this new sheet are the various stipends that are received by the various positions that do receive stipends under the general laws of the Commonwealth, because that was also asked, what are those stipends and who receives those, so we also call those out there at the end too. So this provides, I think, a clearer picture based off of the questions that the council asked at the informal meeting, where, what built up into those numbers, is there anything else in addition to those numbers that are there, and what about the positions that were included before that weren't included in this, in the original proposal? This puts it all in there. The seasonal, temporary, and intermittent does have an effective start date of January 1, just so we can get through the summer this time and not, deal with the summer employees that we've had now, and deal with those as we're building to the FY27 budget. But then the other positions here have an effective start date of July 1, going back to the beginning of this fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments yet from the council?
I just, what was used to determine the step increases for years of service? What percentage did you decide to use? Because I just see four all the way across the board. I just think some of them are exceptionally.
Yeah, it's 4% across the board.
Okay.
For everyone that's not a seasonal, intermittent, or that's 2% across between the steps.
So if we were to go based on this, okay, and I just took a few positions, okay, I came up with 3 positions that are getting 30 to 31% increases.
Yeah, it's, again, just out of fairness, it was just the same system without looking at the individuals, but the positions that were there for equal system across the board.
So, and that's, I have to tell you, that's my biggest hold down on this whole process, because this is the same chart that was used from the salary group. The step system, I believe, is pretty much the same, the 1, 2, 3. It looks pretty much.
The years of service are the same, but
yeah.
the original group had 8%.
8%, exactly, but it's cut down to 4%.
Yeah.
But this is my big thing that, I just randomly took 6 positions and did the math. So and the IT director would be a 31% increase, the IT systems manager would be a 31.5% increase. DPW director would be a little over 30%. Purchasing director, though, would be 12.5%, the assessor 8.1%, and the auditor 17%. So I guess that goes back to my question to the Director of Human Resources about performance review. Because I don't think we're really looking directly at all the positions and the work they do. Because, I think the assessor's office and the purchasing office, they do a lot of work, but I don't think their salaries, along with veterans, COA, which was brought up by the salary survey, are really reflected well on this proposal compared to some other department heads. I just don't think, in my personal opinion, that I just don't think it's equitable. I think some of the increases are way too high for the job responsibilities in what they do. One position is doing 50% of what they were originally hired to do. They got cut down from being in 2 departments to 1, and their salary has increased tremendously, just now being responsible for City Hall, and not both City Hall and the schools. So that's the, and I know there are a lot of department heads here who joined us on their work day, on city time, to come and be here. And I just want to say that I am totally in favor of a raise. I just don't like this. I just cannot support the huge increase in the steps for the years of service. And I was I was almost a 34-year employee. These are way too substantial jumps for years of service. I just, in my opinion. I just think starting using the base pay to start, I think that was my thing. The salary group original spreadsheet, they had a proposed salary when they started with the 8%, not using the current salary, because I went back and looked at that as well. You know, and I just, in seeing I'm speaking, I just want to take a minute. There is a time limitation on doing this salary proposal, correct? By October 1st?
And
For the tax?
An appropriation needs to be made either into a salary reserve or into the salary accounts of the departments.
Okay.
That's what has the timeline, not the ordinance itself.
Okay, all right, so it's just important that we keep are reminded of that, that that there is a time limitation. You know, whether, and by that date, whether it's just put in as a straight COLA at this point, you know what I mean, just to make sure those monies are there, because I don't want to see anything, you know, not done on a timely manner, but that's just my personal opinion. I was really hoping to see a proposal with a COLA, but something else for awarding longevity to department heads that, because as I said, I just think, you know, 30 to almost 32% is a tremendous jump without looking at the individual job performance, and then I actually do think for some people it is almost like a slap in the face, because I think there are other departments and department heads that do very, very valuable work, and that's just my take. Thank you.
Appreciate it. There are those concerns that I think are very valid. We do have actually, I want to kind of segue just shortly here away from us, and we do have an amendment that was put in front of us by Councilor Brooks. I'm going to give him the opportunity to talk about the amendment now, and then we can jump back into that. Councilor Brooks, thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. And when I'm done, I'll go back to my seat and sit there quietly, I promise. And this is just following up on discussion held by City Council last week. I had earlier submitted a proposed amendment and now have some adjustments to it. If you look at the mayor's original proposal of the ordinance, section 1 references the grid with all the salaries on it. Section 2 talks about step levels and that they're based on years of service in a position, not years of service in the city. I think that's an important distinction we just have to keep in mind. Section 3 talks about promotions when someone who's a current employee is promoted, how that's handled. Demotions, similarly, when it's an employee who is demoted, how that's handled. Section 5 talks about when the step rate is effective with the date of hire or date of promotion, and not on a fiscal year basis or a calendar year basis. Doing it as a date of hire basis is a lot cleaner. It's more difficult for the city auditor, I know that, having done it. But I think that it's cleaner in this respect because we're not trying to parse what counts as a year and what doesn't. And then step 6 gives the mayor the ability to hire at step 2 if he deems it necessary. Otherwise, the theory is that everybody's hired at step 1. So if I look at the original proposal, it assumes everyone would be hired at step 1 with the exception granted in section 6 where he could hire at step 2 if he felt they met certain criteria. My concern with that section had to do with the employee who would get their first step increase, when they would get their first step increase if the mayor started them on step 2. And I've been in those discussions when there's misunderstandings and it's not pretty. So my understanding was that the move to step 3 would happen after the employee had been on step 2 for 2 years. And so that was my original amendment, that new hires who began at step 2 would move to step 3 after 2 years after their hire date. If we change nothing, that would be my suggestion, and that change would be made to section 6. However, based on the discussion during the city council meeting last week, there seems to be a desire to give the mayor flexibility to hire at any step, subject to council approval. If we agree to allow it by amending section 6, then we have to discuss the effect on future step increases. If you're hiring someone at step 5, do they have to go 10 years before they get to step, or, I'm sorry, if they're hired at the 5-year step, do they have to wait 10 years to go to the 10-year step? Or do they go to the 10-year step after 5 years? Okay? So if we make that, if we amend section 6 to allow the mayor then to hire at a step commensurate with the applicant's education, training, experience, then my original proposed amendment would not be used and my alternative proposed amendment would be appropriate, and it would be made to section 5, step levels, basically saying that future step increases will take place when the appropriate number of years between steps has been completed. I know there are other proposals out there and I'll let others discuss that, but that's just my suggestion in this.
Thank you. Okay, any questions about that?
Nothing
No?
from me.
No?
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, pivoting back, as well, this is obviously, was discussed a bit during our meeting, I think it will be discussed again. And the decision has to be made which way it's going to work and has to be clear, clearly delineated. Piggybacking off of what Councilor Mack was talking about salaries, we started talking about the police chief, the fire chief, the deputy chief. Looking at the numbers appropriated for that were budgeted for those departments versus what is currently been expended in the reports that were given by the auditor, there's a large delta there. I just need some more clarity on that.
Yeah, so even if they're rolled into what's included in the ordinance, they're budgeted for in separate line items in the budget themselves. So the clothing allowance is budgeted separate of the salary line, which is budgeted separate of the educational incentive, which I think in the fire department budget is even listed as college credits rather than educational incentive.
There's a college credits section in there.
Yeah, so it's broken out into separate line items in the budget itself and then paid in one item on the ordinance side.
Paid in one item on the ordinance, but in the budget that we had here, I mean, just case in point, the chief of police was budgeted $115,000 and there's been $146,000 expended out of that account, according to the report given to us.
I was gonna jump in, I'm so glad you asked, I had the same question, and I'm not looking to cut him in salary necessarily, but I did some of that math out, so 115 is what I saw, 1,000 is what the ordinance says for clothing allowance, and if it's the 12.5% for a master's degree, all that together is 131, so I'm not sure where that $14,000 to your point
I was getting
comes
roughly
from.
$130,000.
And then the chiefs and the other two chiefs are in a similar role, and I could not find anywhere where that 14 grand.
The 12.5 is the old number. It's the, we went full Quinn when we got out of civil service and the ordinance was changed to do that same for the chief and deputy chief.
Do you know
After
what the
that.
number is now?
That I'd have to.
Assuming they have masters,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So is that just
They both have
because
masters. So
our
I-
ordinances are still not fully updated online?
Yes.
Okay.
So the 12.5% is not the correct.
No, it's double that. So we did half of Quinn before and then we did full Quinn once we got out of civil service.
That is a relief, because I was
Yeah.
I'm crazy trying to find this money.
I will say the
They're gonna
city,
be somewhere.
yeah, the city clerk and I did have a Zoom meeting with Code 360, which is our E-code vendor. They are currently working on the administrative legislation update. It was a 48-page document and now they just have to redo basically the entire first half of the ordinances there too, so it just is taking them a while. But the city clerk and I have been adamant that, we just need to get this done soon. If you're on the website and you click the new laws tab, it will pop up there as a link. So there is but unless you know to click where it says new laws on the left-hand side, you're likely gonna miss it. But it is available there on the website.
So just for clarity, again, when we pulled out of civil service, we were required to go for the full Quinn
Yep.
bill. That was how that worked.
That was the trade-off, yep.
And so, I guess it just, where, the money's in that account, where is it coming from currently?
I'd have to look to get, I don't have the accounts in front of me here for that one.
Okay, but if you can get that information,
Yeah, for sure.
Once the auditor has further information at this time, you guys can gather it and get it to us.
Yep.
We wanna make sure the numbers are accurate, and what we're doing here is accurate, so we can get this done correctly. I think we've all discussed here, all discussed in the council meeting, this is something we're striving for, we're hoping to get done, but fully understanding what's going on is obviously gonna be helpful and for us to make those final decisions.
Yep.
kick it through whoever wants to speak some, any more questions.
Sure. Thank you for that, that was helpful, I had that same question, and again, I knew it must have been somewhere, but, appreciate that information, and I think, to that point too, Mr. Chairman, this is a huge undertaking, there's a lot of details, a lot of positions, and so, sure, we found some that were omitted, we're just making sure, right, and that's what the best part of this process is, that we cover everything. So, if there's nothing else on maybe our current stuff, I do have an amendment by substitution I also want to put forward, if there's no objection to that happening.
There's no objection?
No. All right, so I'll pass out, I did bring copies for both and and I'll what I'm gonna do is kind of walk through my process, and my goals with this. So, it might take a little bit, but I'll give you my whole overview and then we can go from there. So my goal with this was to take into account the concerns and questions that have been raised by the counselors leading up to our informal meeting, during our informal meeting since then, and increase the amount of oversight that the council will have with this process going forward. I talked about that a little bit too at our informal meeting, where obviously all of the ordinances currently have to come to us with changes, just making sure some of that check and balance is still in place. I also want to get this proposal into conditions so that we can be in a position to vote on it. I do think that there's probably still some errors and omissions that we need to address. And I know I've been big on this being an English teacher, there's still a question mark in the latest version, and I don't want to send something to first or second printing that isn't as ready as can be. So I think we have to set that aside. And I'm going to propose this amendment by substitution. So I think this can salvage what is ready to go and give us some more time without holding the rest back and kicking the can further down the road. So changes I'm proposing with the salary grid. I think a top concern, and we heard some of this today with counselors, was affordability. This version is less expensive to implement in year one. I estimated the savings compared to the mayor's proposal around $150,000. So $1 million over the next 10 years. I'm also proposing changes to the mechanism in the grid. First, it does group employees based on a few factors, their role, whether they require council confirmation, and then I drew heavily on the salary study to make those groups. So you'll see their sort of department heads, assistants, the seasonal temporaries are in there. Next, I changed the schedule of salary rate increase based on the characteristics of the groups. So for the employees subject to council confirmation, I set the steps at 3 years, except for the last step, which goes from 15 to 20 years. This makes sure that the council will have an opportunity to review an appointment in between someone going to the next step. I think that reflects another concern voiced by councilors, ensuring a level of council oversight is put into any new system. For non-council employees, confirmed employees who are not department heads, I'm suggesting the more standard 2% longevity-based salary increase every other year. This aligns, I think, much more with the standard step structure is currently in place throughout the city. So these changes combined with adjustments to the starting salaries are the source of the savings. To be clear, the current salaries of all personnel in this amendment are receiving an increase. I do want to make sure that that is true. I wanted to make sure there was raises throughout. However, compared to the current ordinance, there are many positions not covered by this, and I want to explain why and how I propose we address that. And you may have seen it if you started looking through this. So most of these positions are from the library and golf course. So they have separate governance bodies that I think we need to consult with to make sure that what we're approving accurately takes into account the unique circumstances of those departments. I'm also concerned that there may be serious issues with what was proposed, and why I'm suggesting they exercise caution and take more time to work on those details. So an example is the position of golf pro manager. It wasn't adequately addressed by the salary study. It stood out to me because it was one of the highest percentage increases in the proposal. It also stood out to me because in the current ordinance, it's listed as a weekly salary, not an annual salary. And so this is where I think the disconnect came from. The current ordinance lists the salary at $1,200 or so weekly. If you multiply that by 52 weeks, you get $62,000, which I think might be what the new number was based on. However, I've learned from the Golf Commission that the golf pro manager is only paid for 40 weeks a year, so $48,000. And also keeps the profits from the pro shop at the golf course as part of the deal. So the $78,000 salary proposed by the mayor's package is a very substantial raise. This should give us pause, and why I think we should study those departments further before we approve a salary adjustment package that covers them. There's also been some issues, and we talked about this. You know, the civil defense director, sealer of weights and measures weren't included originally. I had emailed with the auditor, HR director, and the mayor about this. Originally was told by the auditor that any position not included in the mayor's proposal was covered by something else, like a union that had been rolled in somewhere. And then at our meeting last week, the mayor clarified that, you know, that was a mistake. Those positions should be included, some of them anyway. The sealer of weights and measures, civil defense director. However, the updated version, they're in one version, but they're not. There was another version we received yesterday where they weren't listed. Proposed exhibit replacement for Schedule E. So what we looked at today, we saw them in, but there's another version that was attached where they weren't listed. So again, just trying to
Yeah, that was the old version.
match those things. Yeah, and make sure we have them all good to go. So this then leads to my redraft of the ordinance. The first thing I seek to correct is this issue, because I'm not sure if those issues, positions being left out, have been triple checked and dealt with. So my proposal overrides but does not replace the current exhibit schedule as a safeguard against any position being erroneously left out. The biggest change I'm proposing to the ordinance language is allowing for credit for prior service. And I had made some previous amendments. I think those have even since changed in this version. I think it addresses the retention issue across all city departments, as it does not inhibit career advancement, and I'm hoping it really does incentivize people building skills to stay in Gardner. There's a real benefit for us to have employees cross-trained with experience in different areas of city government. A real example that benefited us last year when there were problems with our community development department. We were very lucky to have 2 prior employees of that department who still worked for our city. One is here with us today. And they stepped up, and I think they helped a lot of reporting get fixed. I think there were some accounting issues that they had caught that was really important that they caught those things. I think it probably saved us money and definitely saved some grant opportunities. So having that knowledge and that institutional knowledge, I think really benefited us in that moment. I think the system I proposed in Section 2 and Section 6 are fair and will still give us flexibility to recruit and retain qualified candidates. It also gives the council a check to make sure the system is running as we intended and there are more eyes on it. I also took into account a point made by Councilor Brooks, and we talked a little bit about this today concerning the awarding of steps. I think what I proposed eliminates that concern and actually gives us some more flexibility and should simplify the system. So instead of granting necessarily steps, this would allow us to set up a system where we recognize prior experience by awarding years towards those steps. So instead of saying that you're in step 2, and then do we have to decide, do you do 2 more years before you get step 3, we're gonna give you 3 years. And that places you on the grid. And I have in the language, there's a bit of a breakdown of what that could look like, a little bit of a formula to help guide that process. And I think that would solve for that issue. So for example, we have a clerk and an assistant clerk under this system. If the assistant clerk stays here for 5 years and were to become city clerk, they would be eligible to receive credit years that would start them in step 1 instead of the starting salary. I believe the way I proposed this system puts in place responsible guardrails, checks and balances, and is a fair, affordable way for us to incentivize people sticking around. Again, there's a tangible benefit for the city, and we should recognize that. It's also important to note that the system creates eligibility, not a guarantee though, right? It's just a possibility. It's there. So when Councilor Tassoni had talked about this, you know, the idea of these things are earned, and it gives the council final say. And it also gives us more ability to attract, I think, qualified and experienced candidates from outside the city by allowing more flexibility in starting salary commensurate with skill level and experience. Some quick notes too, section 6 specifically addresses how we could apply this to existing employees in certain circumstances. I mentioned that a second ago. Section 7 makes these salary adjustments retroactive, beginning to the beginning of the fiscal year. Section 8 will prevent a loophole where an expired appointee could receive a raise by the system. Section 9, I think, is an important one. One of the chief reasons this has been such a daunting task this year is that, you know, it's been put off for many years, many years. It's been long overdue. This section commits to the regular review by the council, periodic reviews of the proposed salary grid. And so the reality is that over time, these positions change. And we've talked about, we've seen that. We've combined some positions, we've broken some things apart. laws and ordinances add or change duties, other factors we cannot predict have an impact. So the mandate will make sure that there's at least the opportunity regularly to look at further adjustments so that we don't end up years and years without these committed employees seeing some, benefit to that and staying with us. And hopefully reduces issues of favoritism, which we discussed, that could have been a case years ago. I don't think that's been a case with this administration. And we've voiced an interest in curbing those things though. Eliminates the issues of shy employees getting overlooked or positions that may be further from our usual view getting left out, which we talked about a little bit today as well. The other thing I'm hoping this will correct is the process. So I've heard and I agree with a lot of the frustration that's been expressed in general with the process. The bottom line is I think we have room for improvement, and this will make sure that happens. Section 10, I added this because this is a new system. I think it's important for us to have a check-in to make sure it's working and working as intended, and if need be, discuss issues and changes. So I hope this amendment is accepted and we refer the item to the whole council. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions yet?
Just a comment, seeing I'm just getting this, I will just say that I really do, I liken this an advantage to all employees. I like the 3-year increment instead of the 5-year increment, for, compensation for your years. I think that's, that's a great incentive, and I just wanna know, and it also awards great group, 1A and 1B positions, the department heads, and the other positions, the assistant city clerk. It gives them more of a step percentage, every jump than other positions that are, in groups, your groups 2 and 3. I think that's a really, that's a great incentive for the top department heads. But I appreciate you submitting this. This is kind of like what we needed to see, something different and something innovative, to still give significant raises, across the board.
This is, obviously we just got the document, but appreciate the work that was put into it. I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess for Councilor Mack and I to get a chance to read through it fully. So we'll take 5 and get a chance to read through it and reconvene.
Is there an extra copy too?
You can-
Thank you.
Yeah.